All right, happy Friday. Welcome to NewsWire on SportsGrid. Should be a great weekend of NFL and college football. It all starts tomorrow with 2 games in the NFL, full slate Sunday, college football championship on Monday night, and all weekend long here on SportsGrid. We have you covered with all of our programming leading up to the NFL game Saturday, the NFL games and during the game Sunday, and of course the big national championship game between Michigan and Washington on Monday. So Warren Sharp will be with us a little bit later in the show. We'll preview the Saturday games and the Sunday games as well. We'll also do that with Matt Lutovsky from Sporting News. And Jim Gazzale joins us from Legal Sports Report to talk about the very latest in sports betting going on across the globe. And we begin today with my home state of Florida here, making news once again on the sports betting landscape. For those of you who enjoy playing daily fantasy on the various sites, well, I don't know how much longer you'll be able to play on certain sites. And naturally, with sports betting now being legalized, the Seminole Tribe having the Hard Rock app and people taking their time to carefully place bets there are some questions surrounding Florida's fantasy sports landscape, and regulators are looking into whether or not some of the games that are being played are in fact legal, meaning that, of course, they don't want any conflict with the sports betting, and naturally this could go on in the future and sort of change the landscape, how daily fantasy looks. It's been happening all over the country, and now it's happening in Florida as well. And so obviously West Flagler, a group, is trying to still petition to stop the Seminole Tribe from having their sports betting app up and taking sports bets, and the Supreme Court is going to weigh in on that, but no result or resolve as of yet there. So that's the very latest at the top with sports betting. Now over to the National Football League. For those of you who are getting ready for the big week coming ahead, Dalvin Cook, who was released by the Jets, he has chosen his new destination, and he ends up playing with the Baltimore Ravens. Good choice. Number 1 seed in the AFC. Cook probably a backup of some kind, maybe short yardage guy. Who knows? Either way, Cook now a member of the Baltimore Ravens. Also, in case you missed this yesterday, Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill had his house lit on fire. It was a child that had a lighter that essentially, was playing with one, lit the house on fire. Nobody was hurt. That's the good news. This was in Southwest Ranches. That's what Florida officials are saying there. As far as the Raiders are concerned, they're going to have to make a decision coming up, I would say, in just a few days on interim coach Antonio Pierce, who's done a really nice job since he's taken over from Josh McDaniels, Max Crosby, their great defensive player, Devontae Adams, a great offensive player. Both say Antonio Pierce should be the next Raiders head coach. We'll see, of course, what they decide there. And Noah Brown, wide receiver for the Houston Texans, has been ruled out this weekend against the Indianapolis Colts. Of course, they also don't have Tank Dell. They do have Nico Collins, which is the important receiver to have, I think, this weekend. Now, the NFC South, still up in the air going into the final week of the season. What a disappointing season it's been for the Atlanta Falcons. And the New Orleans Saints can kind of correct things on their season with a win over Atlanta on Sunday. 2 coaches have had their fair share of issues this year. Let's check in with Warren Sharp. He's got the very latest on this matchup between the Falcons and Saints.
Dennis Allen may not be a great coach, but one thing is for sure, he does know how to coach defense, and he has been very successful in same-season rematch games. Since 2019, Dennis Allen's squad are 13-3 straight up in ATS, and the under is 11-3 in same-season rematch games. That's largely because the Saints defense holds their opponent's offense in check massively. They have allowed more than 18 points in just one of those 14 games, and that was a game they allowed only 20 points in. They have held their opponents under the team total in 13 of those 14 games. Meanwhile, Arthur Smith has not had much success in same-season rematch games. The Atlanta Falcons are 0-2 straight up in ATS this year in same-season rematch games, and their offense isn't coming out and scoring points quickly and rapidly in those contests. This is a massively important game, obviously, for the future of both of these teams, for the tenure of Arthur Smith as well. But I just have my concerns going up against a coach who's so good at scheming up defense against opponents that he's already seen once before this year. Should be a great game. I don't expect a lot of fireworks, though. I would look towards the under.
All right, thanks, Warren. We'll check back with Warren a little bit later in the show. Now let's go over to college football. Start off with some transfer portal news, which has been the news outside of the bowl season for the past month. Iowa's great cornerback Cooper DeJean has decided to enter the NFL draft, unanimous All-American, so he heads to the draft coming up later this year. Oklahoma State's quarterback Alan Bowman has been granted, get this, a 7th year of eligibility. Actually played for Cliff Kingsbury at Texas Tech. How about that one? Ex-Kansas State quarterback Will Howard is now transferring to Ohio State, so another move for Will Howard in the transfer portal. And Oklahoma hiring Jacksonville State's defensive coordinator for the same role. His name is Zach Alley. He is headed there as well. For those of you interested in the very latest line on the Monday night championship between Michigan and Washington over on the FanDuel Sportsbook, right now Michigan still sits as a 4.5-point favorite, and the total is 56.5, up from 55.5 earlier this week. In the NBA, Nikola Jokic with a great game last night and a buzzer beater as well. 130-127. Denver ends up beating Golden State. The Warriors have had a tough time this season, to say the least. They're going to get Draymond Green back soon. He's returned to the Warriors facility. He's been out since that scuffle a while back. The Orlando Magic have announced that they're going to retire Shaquille O'Neal's number 32 jersey on February the 13th. Of course, Shaq drafted by the Magic. It's where it all began. And Ricky Rubio, former great guard in the NBA, has announced his retirement after 12 seasons, citing mental health. Now, as far as the Soccer Federation and this ongoing story that is going on right now in Brazil, they have reinstated their president, Ednaldo Rodriguez, and have all been exonerated after a suspicious 2022 election. The baseball hot stove got a little bit of a drip yesterday. Harrison Bader and the New York Mets have agreed to a 1-year, $10.5 million contract, assumingly Bader will play center field for the Mets coming up this year. A judge will rule in the Wander Franco case today. A ruling will be made in the Dominican Republic. There's video, as seen this morning on social media, of Franco going into the law offices, and a story that is certainly we will follow as well. And athletics have blocked an independent league team from playing at Oakland Coliseum. Of course, fans in Oakland all upset that their Oakland A's are going to be moving to Las Vegas. The Oakland Bees wanted to have the right of this nostalgia night in June. Obviously, they're not going to let that happen. And for those of you who didn't catch this yesterday, of course, this interview was not on our network, but former pitcher for the Los Angeles Dodgers, Cincinnati Reds, Arizona Diamondbacks, Trevor Bauer, has been doing a lot of the media circles, basically saying that he had a lot of regret into the way that he handled his personal life over the past several years. Bauer playing overseas now, not playing Major League Baseball. We'll see if that ends up changing, but as of now has not signed with any Major League Baseball team. All right, we'll take a quick time out right here on NewsWire on SportsGrid. Coming up next, Matt Lutovsky joins us. We'll preview the Saturday games coming up in the National Football League. So make sure you stay with us. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. We'll be right back.
It looked like it was going in. It hit the upright and bounced out and did not go in. There's more scoring in an MLS soccer game than there is this Cotton Bowl. The Chargers didn't know what the hell to do with Staley for years. They're a clown show and cheap. Denver's got this issue, Gabe. Like, the Chiefs must just be sitting there going, wow, what a bunch of brain trust we work with in this division.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now we saw a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division favorite.
I don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Who are you taking? Well, especially if you know that maybe Kuzma could get moved. Tyus Jones is a free agent. To me, I'm taking Detroit with Kate, with Ivy, with Doran, and then obviously Ashore Thompson, and also because of Monty Williams, I know he's a better coach than that.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back, the irony. I am disappointed that they lost to FAU because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know. They're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Yay, congratulations, but the game was over at that point, so another one of those terrible beats. If you had 3.5, 4, even 4.5, this was a 10-point game until the final closing seconds.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, the only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
It's the final week of the regular season in the National Football League, where a number of the games count, some that don't, but maybe some of you have season win totals going down to the wire. A lot of player props, of course, going to be popping up. I'm still waiting for some of them to pop up on the FanDuel Sportsbook for the weekend. It's a volatile week in the NFL. Matt Lutovsky joins us from Sporting News to talk exactly about that. Matt, now that fantasy is over, it's back to the final week of the regular season. A danger zone, I think, for a lot of teams, a lot of players not exactly knowing what's going to happen. And, most feel it's like stay with the competitive games because the other games may end up looking like preseason games. But I'm curious your approach going into the weekend.
Yeah, I think you do definitely hit the games that mean something to at least one of the teams, and you try to stick with that team, stick with those players, whether you're playing DFS, whether you're making bets. That's always the safest way to go. It's kind of weird, though, how there are some games with teams where they're both out of it. In some ways, those can be kind of safe games, too. Sometimes the coaches let us know that, hey, we're trying. We take this seriously. Like the Raiders. I think the Raiders are going to go all out, and that's a team that I feel confident in. But obviously, you never really know when it comes to Week 18 because, like you said, it can be a glorified preseason week. It's just a shame that people are paying so much money to go to some of these games, but that's just sort of our lot in life when it comes to Week 18.
Yeah, no, it is. And yeah, there's probably 4 or 5 games that just have 2 teams that are out of it. But that's the nature of the NFL. Not everybody can make it, and this is what's going to happen. But the good news is that the NFL has set up the schedule to where it's going to force some teams on Sunday to win based on the outcomes on Saturday. So let's take a look at that to begin. And it's the Steelers and Ravens, the first game of the 2 on the Saturday evening slate. Pittsburgh is down to 3.5-point favorites over Baltimore, and this total is super low, 35.5. Historically speaking, Matt, this is a 3-point game when the teams are playing for something. So, interestingly enough, the spread really is pretty much where it's been through the years. Generally speaking, the home team is usually a 3-point favorite, but you can't make the Ravens favored knowing that Lamar Jackson is not going to play, and probably all of their skill position players are not going to play either. But can the Steelers win by more than a field goal will be the question, Matt. What do you think? 3.5-point favorites going into the weekend.
It's funny. I hear people say, well, Baltimore's playing with a backup QB. I go, Pittsburgh's playing with a third-string QB. So let's just talk, every year in Week 18, we see a game like this where one team needs to win to get in the playoffs, another team's resting its starters. And it feels like there's one every year where the team with the backups wins. I don't necessarily think it's going to be this game. If this was in Baltimore, I might change my tune. But the fact it's in Pittsburgh, I think that this is a team, this is an organization that does have a lot of pride, that obviously wants to win, make the playoffs, of course, but just win. And I do think they are playing better with Mason Rudolph. I'm not looking at him as if he's some sort of magic elixir or a great quarterback at this point, but they seem to have responded well to him. Both the running and passing game has played a lot better over the past couple weeks. We know the defense is decent, and I do think they'll come through. I think they'll cover. It is going to be a close game. I do think it'll be low scoring because I think Baltimore's defense will show up. But I do like Pittsburgh in this game. And it'll be close, though. It will. I don't think anyone who bets Pittsburgh or certainly bets Pittsburgh against the spread is going to feel great until about the end of the game.
Yeah, close game, I would say, on tap there. Same with the Texans and Colts. Matt, the Colts opened up as a 1.5-point favorite. They're now a 1.5-point dog. The Texans on the road going to Indianapolis with a playoff share at stake, total of 47.5. I think that we all would agree if C.J. Stroud didn't miss time, Houston probably would have already clinched a playoff spot, but they're going to need this one to do it. Will they get it done?
Well, this is a tough one. This one, I feel like the gut says Texans. They have the better offense. They have the better quarterback. You just want to say, but man, rookie quarterback, rookie head coach on the road, de facto playoff game, primetime game. I don't know. This one is. I hate talking about my gut says, but like it does. My gut says Colts. My brain says Texans. I think it's close enough that you can kind of go either way with this one. You know, these teams obviously met back in week 2 when both teams were a lot different, and the Colts won handily. Anthony Richardson, I think, quarterback the first half of that game. He got knocked out with concussion for the Colts, but I just think the Colts have a very strong running game. They have a superior running game, and they can control the clock in this one. And their defense is good enough. You know, the Texans offense is very banged up. Now we know Tank Dell's out. Noah Brown's hurt. They still have weapons. Devin Singletary's been great in the second half of the season. But, man, I'm leaning Colts. I don't like it. I don't feel good about it. But, you know, sometimes that home team, it does make a difference more than we like to think in these sort of, again, de facto playoff games, primetime games. So maybe against my better judgment, I'm leaning Colts, but this is going to be a fascinating game. And this is one of those games where nothing surprises me. Nothing would surprise me. A blowout either way wouldn't surprise me, but I just like the Colts to kind of control the clock with their running game, get that key turnover, and prevail.
All right, well, if the Colts win, they got a shot, of course, at the playoffs. Same could be said for the Green Bay Packers. They have to win this week, but, you know, Matt, the odds are telling you this is not a gimme against the Chicago Bears. The Bears are playing much better lately. The Packers defense has struggled a ton. And, you know, certainly you follow this, you know this closely. I mean, the Packers any year where they're much better than the Bears are not just 3-point favorites. The total is 45. Green Bay got a gift, I thought, from Kevin O'Connell against the Minnesota Vikings. Not sure the decision there to start that kid on Monday, whatever that game was, Sunday night. He looked awful, and the game was over at halftime. You know, man, I think the Bears are going to score points in this game. But the question is, can they win? Can they beat the Packers on the road?
Yeah, I think they can. Would I bet them to do it? If it was in Chicago, I think I would. The fact it's in Green Bay, I would stick with Green Bay. But you're right. Chicago's playing great right now. And I'm generally not a big Justin Fields fan, but even I got to give it up for his play. I think, though, at the end of the day, the Bears and Fields, even if he runs around, he makes some big plays, he is prone to some bad turnovers. And even though that Green Bay defense is not playing well right now, I think they can get those key turnovers, at least one when they really need it. I think they're going to be able to move the ball through the air. We'll see if the receivers get healthier, because that's a big deal too. They got these good receivers, these good young receivers, but a lot of them are banged up right now. So that's going to be something to watch. Watch that injury report going into the game. But Aaron Jones is probably playing his best of the year. I mean, his best game of the year was in week 1 against these Bears. And then he got hurt and has had a very forgettable season since, but he's come back. He's playing pretty well right now. I think Green Bay is going to be able to run the ball. I think Jordan Love's playing with a lot of confidence too. So this is going to be a good game because you know the Bears want to spoil Green Bay's season. There's no doubt about it. They've already locked up the number 1 pick. So they're trying to win games. They want to build off some momentum going into next year. It's going to be a great game, but I do like Green Bay to win. I think they'll narrowly cover, but this is a tough one, and it's going to be a fun game to watch.
Yeah, they're all tough ones this week, it looks like, Matt. And the toughest one maybe of them all, Buffalo at Miami. Money's coming in on the Dolphins here. They were 3-point underdogs. It's now down to 2.5. This probably will move even more. Total is 48.5. The Dolphins have been a better team than the Bills all season long. But, Matt, the issue is, generally speaking, they've had a tough time against the Bills in the past. Now, the Bills are winning games too, Matt, but make no mistake about it, they're not crushing teams, you know? I mean, they won on Saturday night against the Chargers a couple weeks ago with the MASH unit. I mean, did they look really that great last week either? I mean, man, this is to me, the toughest game of them all, if you want to talk about tough games to call.
Yeah, it's funny you say they've been better than them all year. Well, they weren't better than them when they played earlier in the year and the Bills whooped them. And we all know the Dolphins have had a tough time against good teams. They got that monkey off their back a little bit with that Dallas game that they barely won, and probably if not for a goal line fumble would have lost. So I'm all in on the Bills on this one. It's probably a sucker's bet with the game being in Miami, but I just think Miami, with some of the injuries they have to some key players on the offensive side, I just don't think that they play as well against good teams. And you're right, Buffalo is not necessarily a juggernaut right now, but I think they're the better team. And I think they will come through in a big game that they have more experience in.
All right, Matt. Have a good weekend. Thanks for coming on NewsWire.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, Jim Gazzale joins us next here on the show. Don't go away.
It looked like it was going in. It hit the upright and bounced out and did not go in. There's more scoring in an MLS soccer game than there is this Cotton Bowl.
The Chargers didn't know what the hell to do with Staley for years. They're a clown show in chief. Denver's got this issue, Gabe. Like, the Chiefs must just be sitting there going, wow, what a bunch of brain trust we work with in this division.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
Right now, he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division favorite.
I don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Who are you taking? Well, especially if you know that maybe Kuzma could get moved. Tyus Jones is a free agent. To me, I'm taking Detroit with Cade, with Ivy, with Doran, and then obviously Ashore Thompson, and also because of Monty Williams, I know he's a better coach than that.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back, the irony. I am disappointed that they lost to FAU because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know. They're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Yay, congratulations, but the game was over at that point, so another one of those terrible beats. If you had 3.5, 4, even 4.5, this was a 10-point game until the final closing seconds.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, the only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We've got Jim Gazzale from Legal Sports Report in the house. You can follow him on social media, read all of his work at legalsportsreport.com. And as Jim joins us, our story of the day, really, Jim, for me, is a fascinating look as to how promotions help sports books. And simply put, to start off with this, to think that almost 50% of bets made in a particular state can be just on free bets and promotions, to me is a stunning number. Now, it didn't hit 50%. I understand that. We're going to talk about Ohio. But to think that this could climb close to half the amount of bets has me thinking two things. First of all, Jim, what's going to happen when the free bets are gone? Are these people going to still bet? And secondly, what are these sports books doing right, very specifically ESPN Bet, that other companies can still, I guess, take a cue on and improve their footprint in the landscape?
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting question, Craig, and remains to be seen what exactly will happen when, like you said, these free bets and odds boosts and bet credits and whatever else you want to call it, when they all start to run out. Because if you look at it, let's be honest, they're going to not run out entirely, but these numbers are going to come down at some point. And in Ohio, ESPN Bet made a big splash there with a significant amount of free bet giveaways. $29 million made up 41% of their handle there, which I think is an important metric because of just how sustainable is this promotional push, right? Like we've said in the past couple of weeks, as more and more numbers from ESPN Bet have been coming out in states where the app is live. Just how long is this free bet giveaway going to last? And we'll find out here in the next couple of months, I imagine. They did in Ohio take in $70.8 million in handle, which was good for 8.5% of the market-wide total, which is notable because when Penn Entertainment was operating the Barstool Sportsbook, the highest market share of handle that Barstool was able to capture in Ohio was 5.3%. So 2 weeks in, really, in the back half of November for ESPN Bet in Ohio, they already provided Penn with its highest month of handle in that state. And, it did kind of shift that market share a bit across all the operators. DraftKings, their market share dropped slightly to 33% of handle, which has been a little bit of a trend for them there in Ohio over the last couple of months. They had 36% of handle in October and 39% of handle in September. FanDuel, similar story, 35% of handle in November, down from 36% in October. BetMGM, Bet365, Caesars, they all saw some minor dips in handle too as ESPN Bet joined that Ohio market in November. And, like we said, that promotional push, significant in Ohio, and what we've seen in other states where ESPN Bet is live. Michigan, $16.2 million in free bets, $14.8 million in Pennsylvania, $13 million in Maryland for ESPN Bet as it launched. Important to note, too, though, that Michigan and Pennsylvania are both much more mature markets, obviously, than Ohio and Maryland, which are relatively young here with just about a year for each under their belt.
Yeah, and really stunning stuff, I think. And the numbers, when they come in and you bring them on the show, Jim, it's like I still have to take a double take on some of this stuff. Speaking of which, let me do my double take in Colorado, where, I mean, look, the Denver Nuggets are great, make no mistake about it, but the numbers that we're seeing from the month of November, I mean, have to have very little to do with any success from the sports teams, and they're over $608 million from Q4 of last year, from November. So, I mean, even Colorado, without the Broncos playing well, it's like, I think sometimes I'd like to correlate the success of the books with the local teams having success. And I understand that in Boulder, Deion Sanders has made that team very relevant, but not in November either, right? Like they fell apart after October too. So just good news that for people in Colorado in the sports books, it's just their interest isn't solely based on around their local teams. We've proven that here.
Yeah, that's certainly true, Craig. And, it was another record-setting month of handle in Colorado. Like you said, $608.5 million being bet. And the bettors themselves limited their losses in November. They, held the sports books to just a 4.7% win rate. So they lost a little bit less in November than they have at a handful of other points throughout the year. And we have seen the college football betting come back down to earth, so to speak, over the last couple of months. It was spiking in Colorado in August and really spiked in September with all the popularity that Deion Sanders and attention that Deion Sanders brought to that Colorado football program. We've seen things start to level off a bit in college football betting in Colorado, and bettors actually fared quite well in November in college football, almost breaking even there. NFL betting a little bit better for the sports books. They held about 3% of NFL bets. And basketball, like you mentioned, Craig, off the top here, the Denver Nuggets, certainly a very popular team. In fact, over their last full year of betting in Colorado, basketball was far more popular than NFL, which you don't really see too much of across the U.S. NFL, in most markets across the country is the most popular, and the Colorado basketball bettors tend to do well-ish. I mean, they're still losing, of course, but the sports books are only holding about 4%. Rather consistently month over month when it comes to basketball. An interesting note, too, about parlays, which we've talked about a bunch here in recent weeks. In Colorado, parlay betting was up $135.3 million in November, which was up from $91.8 million in November of 22. Their 8.2% win rate in November for the sports books. This past year in 2023 was significantly lower than their nearly 20% hold on parlays from November 22. So, again, like I said, the Colorado bettors limited their losses in November, while at the same time putting a record number of dollars through the sports books during the month.
Okay, and in Nevada, actually the news not as good. And, clearly this is correlating to people being able to bet across the country, and you don't necessarily have to go to Las Vegas anymore to bet on sports. Over the last couple of years, we've learned that. But should I be surprised that the sports book winnings dropped so significantly, or am I missing something here with this story? Is it more of people betting on sports here? I'm trying to understand, Jim, or is this them losing money on people? This can't be 40% people losing money on betting. Las Vegas never loses that.
Yeah, so it's a 40% drop from October. So the October revenue for Nevada sportsbooks was nearly a record high, and things somewhat dropped off here in November. Though, given that month over month dip, and as we know, like things can be a little bit volatile, I guess, if you will, especially in a market like Nevada that relies heavily on in-person betting. It's the most popular in-person betting market in the country, obviously, with all the action that you see in Las Vegas. So even despite that month-over-month dip from October to November, the sportsbooks are still on pace for a record year of revenue there. So the sportsbooks continue to win as their win rate is up a few ticks over the first 11 months through 2022. So positive trends coming on the revenue side. The handle side, though, just the volume of bets is a bit down compared to January through November of 2022. And one interesting thing that stuck out to me from Nevada's November report, we saw a lot about the Formula One race driving record casino revenues in November with the F1 Las Vegas Grand Prix there during November. Some analysts that I spoke to in Las Vegas said that they did not see a huge boost on the sports betting side from F1 being in Las Vegas, which I thought was a little bit interesting since we saw a big boom come on the casino revenue side.
Well, I would tell you that as far as Las Vegas is concerned, as far as Nevada is concerned, I'm fairly confident that the numbers will pick up at some point in March. I wonder what's going on around that time. Anyway, Jim, thanks again for coming in on NewsWire. Have a great rest of your weekend. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Craig. You too.
Yeah, people forget college basketball's March Madness almost as big as the Super Bowl. All right, Ben Stevens is up next. And, of course, Warren Sharp in the Sharp Report.
It looked like it was going in. It hit the upright and bounced out and did not go in. There's more scoring in an MLS soccer game than there is this Cotton Bowl.
The Chargers didn't know what the hell to do with Staley for years. They're a clown show in Chief. Denver's got this issue, Gabe. Like, the Chiefs must just be sitting there going, wow, what a bunch of brain trust we work with in this division.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now we saw a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I
favorite.
don't care if they win because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Who are you taking? Well, especially if you know that maybe Kuzma could get moved. Tyus Jones is a free agent. To me, I'm taking Detroit with Cade, with Ivy, with Doran, and then obviously Ashore Thompson, and also because of Monty Williams, I know he's a better coach than that.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back, the irony. I am disappointed that they lost to FAU because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know. They're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Yay, congratulations, but the game was over at that point, so another one of those terrible beats. If you had 3.5, 4, even 4.5, this was a 10-point game until the final closing seconds.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, the only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Well, if you want every team playing in the National Football League, this is the last weekend you're going to get to see it for 7 months. This is accurate. So I would expect all of you to be locked in the SportsGrid this weekend, as well as watching all of the NFL games. And there's a lot of playoff scenarios that are at stake as well. So let's check in with Ben Stevens from the early line as he tries to sort out the madness going into Week 18 of the NFL season.
Craig, it's the regular season finale. In the National Football League, it all comes down to week number 18. 2 Saturday football games into a full Sunday slate chock full of 14 NFL games that will decide the postseason around the league. We start with the first game up on Saturday, and an intriguing line movement here, Craig, at 3.5 points in favor of Pittsburgh. You might be thinking to yourself, if the Steelers are in Baltimore and the Ravens are the NFL's best team, why in the world would Baltimore be a home underdog? Lamar Jackson and plenty other starters for the flock are going to get a Saturday of rest in the regular season finale to get ready for the postseason. They'll have that additional bye week as the AFC's #1 overall seed. So Pittsburgh, a 3.5-point favorite on the road in the Charm City to start off the Saturday doubleheader in week number 18. The Steelers as a favorite this year, Craig, just 5-4 against the number. Not necessarily the best at covering spreads as a favorite this season. Baltimore has only been an underdog twice. They have won outright in both of those games, but an underdog now, not with Lamar Jackson, but Snoop Huntley as their starting quarterback. But, Craig, it's a story for both of these teams. The Ravens under John Harbaugh. He became the head coach in Baltimore in 2008. Mike Tomlin, of course, for the Pittsburgh Steelers at the helm since 2007. Both of these teams, the two best cover teams when booked as an underdog. Baltimore, a 62.5% cover percentage in that time under John Harbaugh. The total 35.5, not expecting all that many points. So if Pittsburgh gets a win, Craig, they will have a shot at the postseason, but they need help elsewhere. Mainly, they need the Buffalo Bills to lose. So much on the line in the true regular season finale, Sunday Night Football, the final game of all of the regular season in Miami. It's the Dolphins hosting the Buffalo Bills. The AFC East Championship at stake. A playoff berth for Buffalo on the line as well. In the Bills, a 2.5-point favorite, -158 on that money line. Craig, you can consider that the price for Buffalo to see the postseason in its 4th consecutive AFC East divisional crown. With a win, Buffalo will be the AFC East champion and the #2 overall seed in the AFC. If Buffalo wins, as the odds expect, Miami still has already clinched their playoff berth, Craig. They will fall down, though, to the 6th seed line in the AFC postseason picture. Buffalo this year as the favored side entering this football game. Miami as the underdog, just 1-4 against the spread. They won outright, Craig, in their very first game of the year as an underdog against the Chargers in LA. In their last 4 games as an underdog, 0-4 ATS. They have lost every game by at least a touchdown, and the Dolphins dealing with some serious injury issues entering this regular season finale as well. Total at 48.5. So, Craig, so many clinching playoff scenarios for this final weekend of the regular season. It starts tomorrow. Let's enjoy the regular season finale around the NFL.
All right, we'll enjoy it and double down on it as we bring in Warren Sharp. It's time now for the Sharp Report. All right, off we go into Week 18 of the NFL season. 2 games on Saturday, full slate on Sunday, and, of course, the Sunday night game about 15 minutes away from me, Miami and Buffalo. This should be a fun weekend, Warren, and it's a strange weekend, too, let's be honest. There's going to be 4 or 5 games that are of zero consequence. They're going to look like the NFL preseason. So I guess let's start off with that. From a strategy point of view, how do you attack Week 18? Because any of the early movement early on in the week is gone. The lines are more static now. There's really not a lot of mystery out there. The coaches have said what they're going to say. Any different approach for you going into the week?
Well, I'm definitely keyed in on what these final injury reports look like. Any more names that pop up on the list for the teams that have clinched that really don't have anything to play for? Are there any other guys that are going to show up on these injury reports that they are planning on having listed as out for these games? So that could cause additional movement here. on Friday afternoon. But certainly a lot of the early movement has occurred. Now you're waiting for those late moves as well, as you kind of alluded to. And that's kind of the way that I'm playing it. I bet a few things earlier. Now I'm kind of biding my time and looking for some opportunities closer to the buzzer. And they also, books are forcing us to act this way in some case as it relates to the prop market, because there is uncertainty and they're really reluctant to line a lot of these props. So I keep searching for some of the guys that I'm looking to target overs and unders on and waiting until they pop up.
I didn't check today, but even yesterday, even some of the players in tomorrow's games were not posted for player props. I have not seen a 24-hour out yet not posted, but that's kind of where we are. Very interesting. Okay, Vikings-Lions. Let's start off here. I haven't talked about this game a lot during the week, actually. 45.5 is the total. Lions minus 3.5. Are they even playing for positioning this week? They're 3.5-point favorites. The Vikings, I don't know what they did last week, Warren. That was like unthinkable to me. And I was playing in a fantasy matchup here where my opponent picked up this guy Jaron Hall because it's a 2-quarterback league. He needed to play somebody. And from like 10 seconds in the game, I'm like, I'm going to win the championship tonight. And by the way, Kevin O'Connell, like late pull on that one for that quarterback too. Very odd playing for all the marbles, the playoffs doing that. So I just don't have a ton of confidence in the Vikings, but I don't know who's playing for the Lions either. So let's start here.
Yeah, I would imagine that the Lions enter this game really frustrated at the NFL for what transpired in their last game out against the Dallas Cowboys. And if I'm them, I find it difficult, if I'm Dan Campbell, to turn the switch off, to tell my guys, dial it down. We're going to sit some guys. We're going to pull some guys early, because the only way that this game will matter to the Lions is if both the Commanders win the game against the Cowboys and the Giants win the game against the Eagles, in which case then I think the Lions will get the number 2 seed. But if either of those other teams that are better and heavily favored win those games, then the Lions are stuck. So they aren't playing for nothing, but they're playing with very little odds of improving their playoff seeding. And as a result, they don't really need to do anything in this game. But I just don't see how you can dial it down and then dial it back up. I would want to just have my coach turn the dial 10 out of 10 rage mode just through this game and carry it into next week's week 19 wildcard game. So that's the way I would be playing it if I'm the Detroit Lions. The Minnesota Vikings, we always knew entering the season they were not very talented defensively. They have since lost some players due to injury, and their scheme, which was really helping them get a leg up on their competition because of their lack of talent, is being found out by opposing offensive coordinators and play callers, and the defense just has not been playing quite as well. So I would expect that the Detroit Lions offense has some success here, assuming that they want to press the issue. And naturally, going back to Nick Mullins, Jaron Hall was a disaster class in decision-making to start him. Nick Mullins, he's thrown for over 300 yards in both of his starts. He's averaging over 10 yards per attempt in the NFL this season. You got to play him. You have to dial down the interceptions if you can, but that's his main, stinking factor, is that he throws too many interceptions. I don't think it bodes well for them to cover this game or win the game if the Lions indeed are playing, but it's definitely going to add to a little bit more excitement in terms of the outcome and make it a lot more volatile.
Yeah, and maybe some scoreboard watching. I don't know the timing of these games. Lions could just play their hearts out to the half.
That one's early. Yeah, the Lions game is early, so they're going to be playing without knowledge of what's happening in the other games. So they're either going to play hard or they're going to just decide to pull some guys to rest them. I really don't know. That's one team that I really don't know yet how they're planning on playing it, and Dan Campbell's a little bit of a wild card in that regard.
That's fair. Okay, so the Rams are playing the 49ers. We know Brock Purdy is out. Kyle Shanahan said that, and so is Christian McCaffrey. I can't imagine after what happened to the 49ers last year that they would take any risks into the game, but they're 4-point favorites over the Rams, and Sean McVay is going to sit everybody in this game, I believe, Warren. And so it's the Carson Wentz game, but there's two schools of thought here. It's like school one of thought, Warren, is that Carson Wentz is just cooked and they're going to get slaughtered. The other thought is maybe this is Wentz's last chance to prove that he can still play in the NFL. And, there's a lot of motivating factor there for him, too. Total is 41 in the game. It'd be a lot higher if a lot of players were playing in this. It would be like a 45, 46 at least. What do you make of the Rams and 49ers with almost nothing to play for either side?
Well, I hope they line a Carson Wentz to throw an interception prop because I've been looking for that one. Haven't found it yet. We'll be betting the yes that he will when I do get a number that I feel is reasonable. But I'm absolutely looking towards the 49ers a little bit at the beginning of this game. And that's because we know that the Rams, as you mentioned, they've already listed off a variety of names that they're definitely resting for this one. They don't have the benefit of having a bye week like the 49ers do. The Rams have to play in next week's games. And what do we know about the Rams down the stretch and how they've won all these games and made it to the postseason? It's all come in these 30-point games that they're averaging on offense because they have had all of their players with Kyren Williams, with Cooper Kupp, and with Matthew Stafford. Well, all three of those guys are out for this game. We know that Puka Nacua is going to play. He's going to catch a few passes, hit his yardage mark, which I think is he just needs to hit 29 or 30 yards, and then they're going to yank him as well. Meanwhile, the 49ers have come out and said in the past, like Kyle's been talking about, you can't rest everybody. You're going to rest some of your key guys. We already know that, but you need to play some of them. And he's seen teams. He's consulted with some other coaching staffs, and both retired and current, who have rested players for these 2 weeks, right? They had a bye. They also rested in week 18, and they came out very flat. And so I think he may not go the route of just resting everybody like the Rams are doing. As a result, I think at least for the start of this game, the Niners definitely have an edge.
All right. We have time for one more game. So I'm fast forwarding to the game of the week, Bills and Dolphins. Warren, I can't wait to watch this one. A lot on the line for both teams. Bills could get knocked out based on some things that happened earlier. Money's coming in on Miami. Do you think that's the right movement?
I believe it is, but I really would like to see what this final injury report looks like for the Miami Dolphins. Who do they have up defensively? We already know their offense, they're banged up a little bit there, and that's frustrating. I'm sure it's frustrating for all Dolphins fans because we figured by the time we got close to the end of the season with Vic Fangio's defense and learning that system a little bit better, we get Ramsey back into the mix. We're going to be a really well-oiled machine heading into the postseason. And all these injuries have continued to befall the Miami Dolphins here. But this Buffalo Bills offense just does not look right. I don't know what they're doing with Stephon Diggs. They seem to be running the ball too much when they should be passing it a little bit more. Josh Allen doesn't seem to be quite right. There's a lot of question marks there, but what I feel more confident in, it's funny because this was not the case earlier this year, is the Bills defense and the way that they are playing right now. And the fact that they're going to sit back in a too high structure and limit the explosiveness of this Dolphins offense. So I would be looking to a little bit of a lower scoring game. So the money has come in on the Dolphins a little bit. It's also come in on the under. And I don't disagree with either of those positions, particularly the under.
Yeah, I think this should be a fun game. Biggest game the Dolphins will play at home in a really long time, Warren. So I'm looking forward to catching this as well. Thanks again for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Good luck this weekend.
Thanks, Craig.
It looked like it was going in. It hit the upright and bounced out and did not go in. There's more scoring in an MLS soccer game than there is this Cotton Bowl.
The Chargers didn't know what the hell to do with Staley for years. They're a clown show in Chief. Denver's got this issue, Gabe. Like, the Chiefs must just be sitting there going, wow, what a bunch of brain trust we work with in this division.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
Right now, he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I
favorite.
don't care if they win because all we care about is the money, baby. The money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Who are you taking? Well, especially if you know that maybe Kuzma could get moved. Tyus Jones is a free agent. To me, I'm taking Detroit with Cade, with Ivy, with Doran, and then obviously Ashore Thompson, and also because of Monty Williams, I know he's a better coach than that.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back, the irony. I am disappointed that they lost to FAU because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know. They're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Yay, congratulations, but the game was over at that point, so another one of those terrible beats. If you had 3.5, 4, even 4.5, this was a 10-point game until the final closing seconds.
In-game live, prime time. Only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, the only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. A couple of quick baseball notes here before we go. 15 years in the big leagues, Michael Brantley won the World Series with the Houston Astros, has decided to retire. And also the New York Post is reporting that the Major League Baseball trade deadline, interesting, has moved up 2 days to July 30th, back from August 1st last year. So teams have to make a faster decision going into the season, something we'll talk about when baseball season rolls around next month. Let's end with this. Fans are doing a petition. And this time, and we've seen this through the years, this time they're petitioning to oust the owner of the Carolina Panthers, David Tepper, from owning the team. So apparently there's this big petition going on. Everybody is signing it, and they would like to see Carolina, the Panthers, owned by someone else. Tepper, of course, threw a drink on a fan from his luxury box, apologized after, got fined $300,000, and naturally that's what happened. So let me break this down for you, how this is going to work. Nothing is going to happen. These petitions never work. All they do is make people like me on television shows and radio shows address it, and then there's never any outcome from this. Roger Goodell works for the owners. Roger Goodell is never going to oust David Tepper for throwing water or something on a fan. Now, it's a little bit different when you have all kinds of issues like the owner of the Washington Commanders. That's true. But just bad behavior and does not require an owner to be removed. He works for him. He's going to defend him. So whatever you want to do as a fan, I think it's fun and it's cool, and we're talking about it here on the show, but it ain't going to work. Don't waste your time. Not going to happen. That'll do it for the show today. We petition to end the show right now. I think that we will do that. Thanks again to Warren Sharp for coming on the program. Also, thanks to Ben Stevens, Matt Lutovsky, and, of course, Jim Gazzale from coming on the program as well. Our producer, as always, is Sam Yarnell. I'm Craig Mish. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Don't forget, tomorrow morning, Davis Maddock and myself, we will have a full recap of the fantasy football season and also help you set the daily fantasy lineups for Week 18 in the NFL. That's tomorrow morning right here on SportsGrid. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and keep it locked right here.